Hey, fellow Muppet fans, and welcome to Movin' Right Along, a Muppet movie podcast brought to you by toughpigs.com. This is the podcast where we watch the Muppets Take Manhattan 2 Kermits at a time and talk about it a lot. I'm your host, Ryan Rowe.
I'm your other host, Anthony Strand.
And this week we have an extremely special first-time guest. We're very happy to have him this week. Guest, please introduce yourself.
My name is Craig Shemin, and I am the president of the Jim Henson Legacy and former staff writer for the Jim Henson Company.
Yes, and for those who, I'm sure most people who are listening to this podcast know, but Craig has written a million Muppet and Henson projects, including episodes of The Wobulous World of Dr. Seuss, the live Muppet Show from the Muppet Fest convention, the Muppets Inside CD-ROM, the words on the back of the Palisades Muppets action figures, if I have that correct. So
that
just like
correct.
every kind of Muppet thing that you can imagine, Craig has written it. And also, he has hosted many live screenings and events of classic and rare Muppet material. So very happy to have you here, Craig. True. Yes.
It is my pleasure. I'm the second person in my household to be on this podcast.
That's true. We had your wife, Muppet performer Stephanie D'Abruzzo, here toward the beginning of the movie, and now we're getting a little closer to the end, so it's sort of a bookend effect here of your household. Dude. Very nice. So we are here today to talk about minutes 75 and 76 of the Muppets Take Manhattan, in which the gang is looking for Kermit all over New York City, but not even Mayor Ed Koch knows where he is. So we pick up at the beginning of this clip with the whole Muppet gang dashing out of Pete's to go find Kermit. I noticed something here about Rizzo for the first time. We had commented before that the last time we saw the whole gang gathered in Pete's, Rizzo was sitting on top of the counter in the middle of the kitchen, and we saw his whole body, his tail was kind of twitching. So we're back to the kitchen, but it's not the exact same shot. And presumably previously there was a hole in that counter so Steve Whitmire could stick his hand up through. But now at the end of this shot, Rizzo has to run out with everyone else. So I think what they did is just had him raise his hand up a little bit so it looks like Rizzo's on the counter and he's being obscured by some of the other characters. So then at the end, he just sort of makes it look like he's hopping off and then runs out. So just one of those little tiny details that I love noticing.
That is a little tiny detail.
It is a very tiny detail.
No, it's the whole idea of the holes and the not holes. It's kind of a fun game to play when you're thinking about, because there are alternative set pieces that are sometimes brought in.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I ever told this story, and it's a little bit of a tangent, but I heard the show you did with Stephanie. So if she can do tangents,
oh, absolutely.
I can too. But
yes,
at one point at Henson, I wanted a sofa for my office, and I was told that they didn't have anything. They didn't want to spend money for me to get a sofa. So at one, they were like, "Well, we'll keep our eyes open." And then the woman who was the office manager came to me one time and said, "Oh, we may have a sofa for your office." And this was when Aliens in the Family was getting canceled.
Yeah.
So the sofa
way too
that
soon,
I got
by the way.
office,
I actually really loved that show.
The sofa that I ended up getting for my office was the one that was in the living room of Aliens and Family set. So it had these holes in the sofa where they would go in and puppeteer the characters.
Wow.
And it was not even like a sofa with springs and cushioning. It was just a sofa frame with a piece of plywood with two holes, and then the cushions. So they brought in the cushions that had holes with them. And the office manager is like, "Oh, see, we got you a sofa, and don't worry, we also have the cushions that don't have the holes in them.
Oh,
so you
good.
can put those in."
So
and
you eventually able to sit comfortably on it.
Yeah, but I wanted to actually use the one with the holes and actually have a mannequin of a hand coming out of it.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Or you could just like invite the puppeteers over sometimes to like ask, tell them you wanted to have a meeting, and then you can be inside the sofa. We'll have the meeting that way.
But she had measured my office for the sofa, and it just fit. They had to. It was one of those things where they had to move it in, and once they put the sofa in, you couldn't close the door of my office. So
no!
It was like they were like, well, you can either have a sofa or privacy.
Right. So you kept the sofa?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
But when I left that office and the person that came in afterwards didn't want the sofa, it was so tightly wedged in there, they had to actually bring an axe and hack it to pieces.
Oh, wow.
And there went a piece of history. Somebody, there was
a piece of entertainment history.
Aliens in the Family superfan out there would have paid good money for that sofa.
I love the idea that there is a bigger Aliens in the Family superfan than you, Ryan. A person who has written multiple articles about Aliens in the Family.
That is accurate, actually. Yeah, that actually answers a question though that I have had sometimes about talk show appearances, where sometimes on a talk show they'll actually have Kermit or whoever actually sitting on a chair, not on the back of a chair, but actually sitting on the chair. So I guess that's just sort of something that the prop department throws together, or they take an old chair. And
it depends on if they have an extra, basically,
right.
Or if they have access to more chairs. A lot of times, the chairs on talk shows are very expensive.
I imagine,
because sometimes they're custom made for that set. But sometimes they have a couple extra, and if they're willing to, if they think about it and they say, well, are we possibly going to have a puppet come back and do something, and they'll take that risk. And then there are other things that we just don't have the budget to say goodbye to a chair,
right? Yeah,
and they're not planning on they don't have someone who's expecting to have a chair with a hole in it put into their office for people to sit.
No, probably not. Yeah, Jay Leno was not going to have a chair with a hole in his office. So this takes us into the montage of the Muppets looking for Kermit all over New York City. Everyone's just shouting Kermit on street corners, just hoping that he'll hear them and come running, I guess. There's an instrumental piece of music playing here, which is called Looking for Kermit.
And which is one of the, I think, two most perfect pieces of score in a Muppet movie.
What's the other one? I give up.
Well, it's Animal Comeback Animal from the Muppet movie.
Yeah.
When they first, right?
Yeah.
It's those two, I think, are like, when I hear either of them, that's the closest I ever feel to living in the Muppets world. I don't know what it is. There's just something about those two pieces of score that are just like, that's what it would sound like if you were around the Muppets. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, this one is very catchy, and it somehow evokes like the city feeling to me. I also really like the vibraphone that's in here. I noticed it doesn't have a page of its own on Muppet Wiki. I don't have a copy of the soundtrack record myself, but the Wikipedia page for the movie lists Ralph Burns as the composer of this piece, which I assume that's because it's just part of the score.
Yeah.
So, I like it. It's been stuck in my head all day.
I think one of the reasons it may not have a lot of documentation is that this is really the only Muppet movie score that hasn't been released on CD in its entirety.
Right. Sure, yeah.
We did a few tracks of it when we did the Rhino Best of CD.
Yeah,
I wrote the liner notes for that, and
that was for the 25th anniversary of the Muppet Show.
And we were able to get a few tracks on it. And I think part of the problem is that this movie is a Sony movie, so it's not part of the Muppet library at Disney, and it's not part of the later movies that Disney already had when sold the Muppets. So.
Which is also why, much to the dismay of many fans, it's not, as of this recording, it's not on Disney Plus.
However, that may be changing because Sony made a big deal with Disney primarily for the Spider-Man movies, but part of that deal also included other movies that were not specified in the Sony library. Yeah. So I can only imagine that I'm hoping that somewhere, someone in an office at Sony put Muppets Take Manhattan.
Well, they
Muppets
must
from
know that
Space.
there's a desire for this one.
Right. Well, and I mean, I would think Muppets from Space too, like, I just feel like you want to get them all on there, right? You want the whole Muppet movie collection if you can get it. And they're both Sony. I mean, I guess it's a possibility that someone will be like, "Yeah, we don't need that space one," but I hope not. I hope they put it on.
Or they just put Kermit Swamp Years. And
Just Kermit Swamp Years, a classic. Yes,
that was, it was because of that when I wrote the Muppets character encyclopedia, we weren't allowed to put characters that were introduced in Muppets Take Manhattan or Muppets from Space into the book.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you try? Like, did you write the bios for them,
Well,
and they just told you can't do it?
No, I didn't write the bios, but I did put them originally when we first did the encyclopedia. They asked me to come up with a list of like 196 Muppets. I think that was the original count, and I did that, and it included characters from Swamp Years. It included characters, the ad agency frogs. But when they started going through, they started paring down the list because Disney, at first, even though the ad agency frogs and the Swamp Years characters appear on Exhibit O, which is the exhibit attached to the sale document selling the Muppets to Disney.
Okay.
That was I was given this legal list of Exhibit O. This was what Disney owns.
Huh.
They were hesitant because they thought that there were still some legal issues, and that was also I couldn't get the '70s robot on the encyclopedia either because there were some underlying rights issues with the company that built the '70s robot since it wasn't built. He had a page. He had a designed page and everything. So anytime if you look through the Muppets character encyclopedia and you see one of those spreads where there's a picture from Muppets Most Wanted, that's where some characters would have been.
So you had to make up a second page to cover.
Well, we had always planned to do some of those pages specific to Muppets Most Wanted because that was the movie that was coming out.
Right.
A promotional tie-in. But we had to add a few more because they decided they didn't want some characters from the more obscure shows, even though it's an encyclopedia.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like anyone reading that wants to see the obscure stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
you would think so.
Yeah. And also we should just say, because we're going to get Facebook comments, the character is actually 80s robot.
Did I say 70s robot?
Yeah.
You did.
I'm sorry.
You did because the Muppet Show is from the 70s.
Yeah, I'm sorry. 80s robot. I had been working on it so long that it seemed like actually I had very little time to work on the encyclopedia. So that was that's it really would have been nice. And I'm always thinking in the back of my mind, if Disney is concerned about ownership issues from Muppets Take Manhattan, why weren't the Muppet Babies affected? And they got their whole spin-off. I think that they were probably thinking that Henson had established them as Henson property by doing the Muppet Babies spin-off to begin with, so Disney was comfortable in doing the reboot of the already spun off.
That makes sense.
Right, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad the frogs didn't make it into the encyclopedia.
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah. It would have been nice because one of the fun things about doing that encyclopedia is being able to make up a lot of this backstory.
Oh, that must have been so much fun for you.
Yeah, I had characters that had been in one episode, like Angus McGonagall, the gargling Argyle gargoyle.
Sure, of
so
course.
I was able to make up a lot of what these characters had done since the Muppet Show. So the ad agency frogs would have been wonderful to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Where was Jill born? That's what we want to know. So the next thing we see is Piggy. She's looking for Kermit near the Empire State Building. I like that some of these characters are looking for Kermit in places that are associated with them and Kermit earlier in the movie. I had never noticed that before. So the last time we saw the Empire State Building, Piggy was spying on Kermit when he went up to the observation deck. So I guess it's not unreasonable to think that she might suspect that he went up there again. So
yeah, and I think it's nice from a callback point of view, but you also think about the production point of view, where it's okay. We're already at this location. Let's grab the shot. For montage.
Right.
I'm sure it was the same day, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's amazing how much ground you cover in a montage. It's almost as fast as traveling by map.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, this is like traveling by subway map all over the city.
Yeah, it's a minute and a half.
So then we see Scooter. He's riding his bike past the Schubert Theater. This is a Broadway theater on 44th Street between 7th and 8th Avenues. It's right near Junior's there, where you can get some good cheesecake. This theater has been there since 1913. We can see in this shot that a chorus line is playing.
So can I as not, you two New Yorkers probably always knew this, but so in the front of the marquee, it says Shakespeare in the New York Shakespeare Festival on Broadway.
Yeah.
And my whole life thought that meant that playing in that theater was a New York Shakespeare Festival on Broadway. Well, but it turns out that a chorus line was like produced by the New York Shakespeare Festival.
Yeah.
Question mark?
Yeah, the head of the New York Shakespeare Festival was a man named Joseph Papp, and Joseph Papp ran the Public Theater down on Lafayette Street downtown, and the New York Shakespeare Festival was sort of that producing organization, and also did the Shakespeare in the Park.
Right.
So, I believe Chorus Line started down. When they first did the workshops, the original production workshops, that was all done downtown at the Public Theater. I think, if there are Broadway.
Right,
I did read the Wikipedia article today, but I did not note all of that stuff. But that sounds right.
So when it moved uptown to Broadway, the producing organization was still the New York Shakespeare Festival, but since it was not at their regular venues, it's the New York Shakespeare Festival on Broadway.
Yeah.
Which like makes sense when you know it, but like, yeah, I just, my whole life I assumed, oh, there's a Shakespeare play.
And I remember
there's not.
We had a high school theater trip when I was in high school, and we went to see Chorus Line.
Sure.
At that theater, we all went on the big uncomfortable yellow school bus.
Sure.
And we were so far up in the balcony that it felt like we were watching other people watch a show.
Yeah, those are the cheap seats.
Like, those people seem to be enjoying whatever that show is. I can't really quite make out the actors.
Yeah, it's worse in those seats too when you're 6'3" and your whole body is crammed into one of those cheap seats way up there. Where were you coming from on the uncomfortable bus to see the show on Broadway?
From Rockaway, New Jersey.
Okay, that's not
about
too
an hour
long a trip. Yeah. That's a cool field trip, though.
Yeah, but then when you think about it, and when you look at those, when you think about it later on, and the safety issues of those school buses with no seatbelts and everything, I'm thinking that we would take these into the city. It was bad enough we would be, bouncing all around Rockaway, New Jersey every morning. But we weren't thinking about things back then,
No, nobody was thinking about things back then. It is funny though. Yeah. Like you say that the New York Shakespeare Festival was doing all these things that were not Shakespeare. Actually, I've been to a Shakespeare in the Park production in Central Park exactly once, and it was the musical Hair. So like no connection to Shakespeare whatsoever, but that's what they do.
It was a brand,
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. A Chorus Line ran at the Schubert from 1975 to 1990. It was the longest running Broadway show for a while. Did you have something else about A Chorus Line?
No. I think that it was Marvin Hamlish wrote the music, and he's a very renowned composer.
Yes.
And worked in Broadway and film for quite some time.
Yeah. And other notable productions at the Schubert include High Button Shoes, Pal Joey, Kiss Me Kate, Paint Your Wagon, Bye Bye Birdie, Oliver, Chicago for a while, Spamalot, Matilda, and then before everything shut down because of COVID, there was a very critically acclaimed production of To Kill a Mockingbird there, which I assume will resume when everything reopens. But
now, for Anthony's benefit, we should say that theater opens into what is called Schubert Alley.
Yeah.
And it's a little sort of alley that connects the two side streets there. And there's I don't know if it's still there, but there was a little theater shop called One Schubert Alley where you could go and buy posters.
Oh, neat.
And every summer, at the end of every summer, usually in September, Broadway Cares runs a Broadway flea market. In and around Schubert Alley and the side streets.
Yeah, it's a little pedestrian block there.
And you can go there. Each show runs a table. So you could get, the shows will be selling their retired props. So Hamilton might have extra copies of the Hamilton, of the Federalist Papers. Or,
Sure.
Yeah, I know that's great. Avenue Q had sold retired boxes from the box.
Oh, nice.
Sure.
The singing boxes.
Yeah.
Cool.
I picked up one once.
Good.
Was fun. But it used to be that you could get really good things there, like old scripts from people who would bring their scripts. And like for some, Tyne Daly would always have a table by herself,
No kidding.
And she would be selling it would be everything from things from her show business career to like old earrings and dresses. It was basically a nice lady running a little garage sale.
Yeah.
But I remember getting some old Captain Kangaroo scripts and a Captain Kangaroo binder.
Wow.
And some scripts from Barney Miller. But, it's harder to find that sort of stuff nowadays.
Sure. Do you think that's just because people are more likely to just put that stuff directly on eBay or similar things like that?
No, I think it's like a lot of the people who worked on the older classic things, just they sold them. And, once it's gone into that collector's market, because people that are selling them at the Broadway flea market, they're selling it for charity and a good cause.
It's just a different kind of thing they're selling now.
I think one of my favorite things we picked up one year was a mug that Charlotte Ray had given to the cast and crew of Facts of Life.
Wow. That's great.
Had the Facts of Life logo on one side, and then on the other side, Love Charlotte in the year.
Wow. That was something you bought?
Yeah.
Do you still have it?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
wow. Great.
Getting rid of that.
Do you actually ever drink out of it, or is it just?
Oh, no. It's in our display case next to my Jim Henson baseball glove.
Oh, nice. Huh. And that, do you want to tell that story for those who might not have heard it?
It's when I first started at the Henson Company, I met Jim on the day of the company softball game. And he didn't have a glove with him. So, after I met him, I offered to share the glove I had with him, and we passed it back for several innings. And then at the end of the day, I asked him to autograph it. And I asked Frank to autograph it too.
Yeah,
I think what is probably the only game used Jim Henson baseball glove.
Wow.
I'm sure. Yeah. That's so much cooler than a glove signed by any professional baseball player.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll end up at the Center for Puppetry Arts or the Baseball Hall of Fame. I haven't decided.
Right. They can split it half the year. The only other thing I was going to say about the Schubert, I saw a production a few years ago there of Hello Dolly, starring Muppet Show guest star Bernadette Peters. So, Scooter is riding his bike, like I said, but I don't think this is the same kind of like overhead marionette style, very involved bike.
Yeah, we never saw the wheels. So
right.
They could do this with just Richard Hunt holding the handlebars,
right,
and being pulled by. But I think what's very interesting to me is the taxi that he passed, because it has the advertising for Manhattan Melodies.
Right.
And so it begs the question, how long does it take to design a Manhattan Melodies logo and contact the ad agency and get it in place on top of a taxi? because we only have like a 2-week window.
Right. That's
Right,
what
2
Ronnie
weeks.
said. Yeah, they had 2 weeks to do everything.
So I want to hire this graphic designer. I want to hire these people
Yeah.
because they were able to get it going.
Yeah, a
Right.
lot happens in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, right?
Now, I did notice that the sign on the cab says Broadway and 45th Street for the address of Manhattan Melodies.
Oh, okay.
But,
And is-
the Biltmore Theater, I believe, is what they used for the exterior.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's on 47th near 8th.
Oh. Huh. I wonder if they were planning on using a different theater or... Yeah,
or
that's very interesting.
Or they just didn't care about
it just wasn't worth...
continuity.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh. Wow. So we see Rizzo, he's back at Sardi's, and he's calling for Kermit. Then he turns to the doorman and says, "Have you seen a frog?" And we don't really get the doorman's reaction.
Before we get to that, I just wanted to also mention that the cab that goes by is a checker cab.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a very old style taxi cab that was sort of retired right around the end.
You don't see those
80s
anymore. Yeah.
They're like available for special rental for shows and movies and stuff. But it was a very large, sort of bulbous looking vehicle that had seats that could flip down on the inside. It was a very large and comfortable taxi cab.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of old-fashioned cars were kind of bulbous.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't make them like that anymore.
But what's unique about it is that it was designed and built specifically to be a taxi cab, as opposed to what we have now, which were, basically cabs are things that used to be other kinds of cars that have been converted for.
Yeah, there was that thing a few years ago where they designed something specifically to be a cab, but then like everybody hated it, so they kind of never got around to making them, I think.
Yeah, I think they made a few of them, but then by the time they start making them, it's already outdated.
Right,
and they can move on to something else.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't have all the details.
But I didn't mean to interrupt your.
No, that's interesting. We have not talked about checker cabs on the show yet. I think we've seen a couple of them already in the movie.
They're fun to watch for in a lot of movies of that area. I think Arthur and Splash and a lot of those 80s movies were sort of the last. And if you look in some of these films, because the cabs were starting to get phased out, the number on the cab, I don't think we get to see it in this shot, but in a lot of these movies, the number on the cabs are the same.
Oh, just because there's the same few cabs being used in every movie.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. So yes, Rizzo at Sardi's. Any other thought? It's a very brief scene. Any thoughts about Rizzo at Sardi's?
Well, the only thing is that the doorman seemed to not be that offended at the sight of the rat.
That's true. Last time everybody was very freaked out about rats in the restaurant.
Although he is outside. He's
in the street, I guess, in New York. So. Seeing a rat, on the street is not as offensive as having them run through Sardi's.
Yeah, right. Even if he's talking and wearing a baseball cap. So meanwhile, we see Kermit or Phil and his colleagues. They're giving a presentation in a boardroom. Phil is now wearing a fancy suit like the other frogs. He's pointing at this poster that has the Ocean Breeze logo. And then on the top, it has the slogan, "Ocean Breeze will get you clean," twice, but in slightly different typefaces. And we can sort of vaguely hear him saying a revolutionary new slogan, which is "Ocean Breeze will get you clean." So Craig, you had something about the boardroom, the attendees here.
Yeah, one of the reasons I picked this section of the film is that you can see Frank Oz in the back, clearly. But I wanted to give a shout out to the man right in the front with the glasses and the mustache. And that was Bob Bromberg, who was the main financial person at the Jim Henson Company.
No kidding. Neat.
He was the chief financial officer and was a very nice man. And I had started at the company as an intern in 87 and then as a staffer in 88. So it was not that long after this movie was made.
Right.
And he was one of these, old style guys who always had a cigar sticking out of his mouth, And if he didn't, you'd think there was one there.
Sure.
Phantom cigar.
And, he was a very nice guy. But I remember when shortly after I started, the Jim Henson Hour was on the air, and it was not a big hit. And they were having some financial issues related to the fact that when you do a network TV show, you have to deficit finance it. So NBC pays a set amount for each episode, and let's say if they were paying $800,000 for an episode, and it cost, $1.5 million, that other money has to come from somewhere. NBC doesn't.
And I can only assume the Jim Henson Hour was an exceptionally expensive TV show.
I think certain episodes were. I think that, and certain episodes, like the Dog City, which was originally supposed to take an hour to shoot, ended up taking, not an hour, a week to shoot. I think it ended up taking closer to 3 weeks. So the costs increase. So they were deficit financing the Jim Henson Hour. The company was having some financial issues because of that. And they all called they had a company meeting down at a hotel and said that there might have to be some cutbacks and there might be layoffs. So after that meeting, I went to Bob Bromberg and I asked him, should I start looking around for another job? Because I was one of the last people they hired. And then he looked at me, he's like, Craig, we pay you so little that we would not save any money if we let you go. And I was insulted and pleased at the same time.
What a relief. Yeah. Wow.
But then it didn't stop me from having these anxiety dreams. And I had one that was really weird. When I dreamt that I came into the office and I got to my desk and there were two people there sitting and working. And then in my dream, I went to Bob Bromberg and Bob Beecher, who was the guy who was the managing director. Bob Beecher was now heads the motion picture fund. You saw him accept the Oscar for the motion picture fund on the Academy Awards. And I went to them in my dream and I said, Bob, they were both Bob.
Right.
And I just went to my desk and there were two people there and they said to me, and this is in my dream, could have been very well reality. He said, we found out that we could hire 2 Swedish people to do the job that you do for the same amount of money. And that's when I woke up. But when I got to work, and it was very specific that in my dream it was Swedish people.
Right.
But then when I got to the office, my desk was still there. So, so that was Bob Bromberg in the conference room.
Wow. Had you been eating like some Swedish fish before you had that dream, or Swedish meatballs?
No, I might have been doing something. I think I might have been doing something associated with the Swedish chef at that point.
Oh, there you go.
Doing something.
Sure,
that makes perfect sense. Wow. Yeah, that's all great. And yes, Frank Oz is in there toward the back. He's looking on very intently with everyone else.
And it's a tradition among movie directors to pop up in cameos. But I think that Frank hasn't done it a lot. He more often appears in movies that John Landis directs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of any others that he's done in his own movies. There may be some, but
I don't
comes to mind.
So.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But he's quite good when he appears. He was really good in Knives Out. I think.
He was
great in Knives Out.
Yeah, like perfect casting for that role.
Yeah. And we should also note that this is his third cameo in a Muppet movie. He was in the Muppet movie and the Great Muppet Caper as well. So
yes,
he does appear in all 3 of these originals.
Yes, he played a biker at the El Sleazo in the Muppet movie, and he was in the newsroom in the Great Muppet Caper. So yeah. So I also wanted to mention something that I forgot to bring up before when we were talking about these frogs. In a live video event in 2020 with the Museum of the Moving Image, Frank Oz and Dave Goelz were talking about this movie. They were talking about the fact that this was Frank's first time directing a film by himself and that he felt like he had to be in control of everything. And Dave Goelz claimed that this included one instance where they were shooting a take and I forget, is Dave Gill or Bill? I keep forgetting.
He's Bill.
Bill.
Dave
Okay.
is Bill, yes.
Okay, so he had Bill's mouth open, and Frank called cut on the whole shot just to tell Dave to close his frog's mouth so they could then begin the takeover again. So
the question I have, you notice that you mentioned the fonts of the two different fonts of the slogan.
Yeah, just Ocean Breeze will get you clean
now,
twice.
We just saw a beautifully typeset and designed poster from Manhattan Melodies.
Yes.
So I would think that the frog could have a slightly better design for the Ocean Breeze slogan than just these two slightly different
they really should have come up with something better by now.
Well, I wonder if they aren't like getting into the nitty gritty of it, and it's like, here are some different options for like just the typeface that's going to be on the poster, or something like that. I'm trying to give the frogs the benefit of the doubt here,
Yeah.
And I also question the slogan itself as a writer.
Sure, please go on.
I mean, maybe a modifier is called for. When you're, let's be frank here about the grocery store and the merchandise industry. The shelf space at markets is at a premium.
Yes.
It's a frog eat frog world.
Oh,
nice.
So the soap company has to really step up, and just an Ocean Breeze soap will get you clean, while a groundbreaking approach.
Yes, just saying what the product does.
It's a wonderful approach, but maybe will get you really clean.
Oh.
Or will get you the cleanest. It reminds me of the slogan that Kellogg's, Kellogg's had a slogan. It's Kellogg's, KELLO good, Kellogg's best to you. Now, another cereal company, I think it was Post, their slogan was, we make breakfast a little bit better. Now, which of those breakfast cereals are you going to buy? The best to you each morning, or we make breakfast a little bit better?
Well,
Right.
is the implication that it's better than the one that says it's the best?
Well, no, they're saying that they make breakfast a little bit better.
Yeah.
They don't say that their cereal is better.
Oh.
So I think that there are some product esteem issues with Ocean Breeze soap that they need to hit it out of the park a little bit more. They need to really, be confident, and it's up to the ad men to make that.
Well, we definitely see that they are not so confident in their work when Kermit first meets them. So this might still be lingering effects of that.
It doesn't look like he's in the Don Draper stratus when he's making this pitch.
No, although we will see later in this montage that sales are literally off the charts.
Yes, that's true.
Well, we'll get to that.
Something's working. Okay.
This just occurred to me. When did the "You're not fully clean unless you're zestfully clean" soap? When did that campaign start?
It was probably around that time, I would imagine.
Yeah, I almost wonder if this was inspired by that, or if that was inspired by this, possibly.
Now, one thing that was inspired by this is that since this film, I've seen several soaps called Ocean Breeze. A lot of store brands.
That pops up every once in a while. Muppet fans are delighted to share those kinds of things among themselves.
I think
I use Suave Ocean Breeze body wash specifically because it's called that.
There
of
you
course,
go.
and it will get you clean.
Exactly.
Does it work? Does it get you clean?
It gets me clean.
But does it get you really clean? Because then
now that's another brand. Yeah.
Maybe it's a legal thing, and the frogs know that the product doesn't really get you very clean. It's we have to hold off and say only what we can legally prove.
Yeah, it has to pass the FDA, not the FDA. Who is it? FCC
or the.
It probably would be the FDA. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
It's not. It's neither a food nor a drug. But
yeah, that's true.
Anyway, so any other thoughts on this boardroom moment before we move on?
No, but it's kind of nice to see these guys in their element and seeing the frogs in nice suits. It's always nice to see that.
Yeah, and Kermit, like he takes right to it. So the next thing we see is Jenny and Ronnie. They are searching in Central Park, which again, this Central Park has some significance with Jenny and Kermit before.
By the way, have you guys talked in previous episodes? And I don't mean to keep interrupting, but
that's what we do.
Please, yeah.
Have we talked about when the ad frogs reappeared on public service announcements?
No, we haven't.
Yeah, you look for it. I think you can find it on the. You could find the information in the Muppet Wiki, but the frogs headlined one of the years of the National Wildlife Federation Muppet ad campaign.
Wow.
And I think
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, you could probably find the clips on YouTube, I'm imagining.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. I had not remembered that, though. It was a few years after this, right?
Yes, and I think it was... They were called, this ad agency was called Four Frogs Advertising Agency and not the Mad Ave. I think it's Mad Ave in this.
Yes.
And it was the four ad agency frogs. And I think Robin made an appearance. And I think this was shortly after Jim passed away. And
okay.
We had a limited access to some of the classic core characters.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because Frank was making movies and Jim was not there. So they were able to get the ad agency gang and Jerry doing Robin. And it was fun because it was like the whole thing was them trying to come up with a slogan for the National Wildlife. I think it may have been Earth Day, maybe not, but it was for something associated with National Wildlife.
Yeah, that's cool that you were able to bring the characters back. We'll look for a link to that and put it in the show notes if it's out there. Yeah.
Is there something between Ronnie and Jenny?
Well, that's what I was just about to say is my mom was our guest last week, as listeners might remember.
Well, now that's a get.
It was.
Absolutely. We were very thrilled.
And she is very into the idea of Ronnie and Jenny as a couple. Like when we watched it for this podcast, she said, I wish they would get married. So apparently there is something there.
Well, I had something I had this at the end of my notes, but in the March 7th, 1983 draft of the screenplay, this is labeled as the second draft by Frank Oz. It does specify that when Ronnie and Jenny are looking for Kermit, they are holding hands. Uh-huh. So there was some thought given to that, I guess, but I don't know. It feels like it comes pretty late in the movie to introduce that. And also, we don't really care about them as much as we care about Kermit and Piggy.
Kind of, you're thinking about these Hollywood musicals, and you always have the third and fourth build couple ending up together.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Because it's like one is comedy relief and one's the comedic lady, and they end up finding each other.
Right. That's true.
And Stephanie,
Donald O'Connor and Peggy Ryan, if you will.
I'm trying to remember if Stephanie mentioned it in her show, but when Stephanie and John Tartaglia won the Theater World Award for the outstanding debut in Avenue Q, the award was presented by Lonnie Price.
Oh, that's cool.
No kidding.
I don't remember her mentioning that.
Yeah, it was, she would like think, well, let's see. They're picking out who's going to give the awards. Who's worked with puppets?
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
And if you have a chance, Juliana Donald appears in a very funny movie called Brain Donors.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I rewatched that recently. They covered it on an episode of the Marx Brothers Council podcast, which is co-hosted by a previous guest of this podcast, Noah Diamond. So, yeah, I rewatched it when they did that, and it mostly holds up. It's very funny. And Juliana Donald plays a character not dissimilar to her character in this.
Yes, she's a dancer and not a costume designer.
Right.
I would say that it's better than at least 3 Marx Brothers movies.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a Marx Brothers homage. Yeah, we should mention.
Yeah, we should say that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it works pretty well. It's very funny. Recommended. So, anything else about the Central Park shot?
No, it's just the more I think about it, Ronnie really has the most at stake here.
Oh yeah, this is his first show. Yeah, this is his one shot to produce a show.
Although I do have some theories on this we'll discuss later.
Oh, that's very intriguing. All right. So then at the 30-second mark of this clip, we see some members of the Electric Mayhem. They're yelling for Kermit around the city. Then we go back to Pete's. We see everyone rehearsing a musical number. Piggy's wearing a top hat that I think looks great on her. I don't think we actually see her wearing it in the finale of Manhattan Melodies later in the movie.
Huh, yeah.
And Jenny is pinning the sleeve on Gonzo's costume, which is just it feels like a nice little authentic theater touch.
Well, and it feels very authentically theater and also very authentically Muppety that she's just doing this in front of the counter at Pete's. That they're just
brings,
you know.
It brings the big question is that Ronnie is either a really good producer or a really bad producer. Because he's using Pete's as an office.
Yes, he's on the phone.
Rehearsal space.
On the payphone.
It's a rehearsal space and it's a wardrobe workroom.
Yeah, a fitting space. Yeah,
he is too cheap to spring for any of those three separate items, and he's just moved into Pete's because he can get it rent free.
Yeah,
right. Which does bring up the question of how much money his dad is putting into this show, right? Like,
did he mention rehearsal space earlier when he said his dad was going to help with the show?
Well, I guess maybe that's what he meant. That my dad will help me talk Pete into giving us rehearsal space.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, and you're surprised. I mean, I got to be surprised too that Pete is allowing all this to happen because he must have customers who are trying.
Well, I can only imagine what's happening in the kitchen. I mean, are the sets being built in the kitchen?
Yeah.
I'm just imagining all the rats back there.
Right.
They're members of Iratsy. Thank you very much.
Great. So in previous scenes,
a joke I recycled from a 1996 Today Show appearance, I think.
Oh, nice.
That is amazing. Do you know if that appearance is on YouTube or
probably? I think it's the one where I don't know what year it was, but we had the tour guide rat that Stephanie played give a tour of the Today Show while the broadcast was going on.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, that is great. We'll look for that one too. And if it's out there, we'll put it in the show notes. So I have noted, and somebody pointed this out, I forget which of our guests, that in an early scene, Jenny is wearing a pin on her uniform. It's a penguin, I think was the first one. So then I've been looking at her uniform pins. She later wore a fish pin, and now she is wearing, in this scene, I can't tell what it is, but it looks like some figure like holding up a star or something. So Jenny likes to wear these pins on her outfits, which is a cool detail, like a character detail that you don't really notice unless you're watching it 2 minutes at a time.
That is true.
So then we go back to Mad Av advertising. We see this chart. It shows that Ocean Breeze sales are doing great. It shows that it doesn't say what units, like, is this units sold, thousands of units sold, millions, or is it dollars? But it shows that sales have gone from about 15 to more than 50. It goes up and it hits the top of the chart, and there's no more room on the chart.
I hope it's in thousands or something. Or
right, it's not just units.
It's not like we've sold 5 bars of soap.
50 bars of soap, yeah.
An increase is not that good a deal. You know,
right.
It's not going to save the account if that's the increase. But I want to know, how fast does this information come in?
Yes, exactly.
How fast are they getting this advertising out there? Are they using the same people who got the Manhattan Melodies poster on the taxi cab?
Right, you're right, because it's less than 2 weeks.
This is all happening, yeah.
It's just, they could have extended the thing to 4 weeks and still, it had to be a little more reality into the equation. But
yeah,
I guess they have instant reporting. See, if it was now, I could see it, because if they sell 1,000 bars of soap at Walmart, they know about it at the front office that day, and they send more soap out. But back then, they're working with pencil and paper and analog phones.
Right, they're getting like memos by FedEx or messenger service or something.
But whoever's running that data, I applaud them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure,
yeah.
Maybe they were traveling by map, right?
I guess so.
They must be.
They ship all the soap by map.
Right.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. Kermit is holding a pencil in his right hand in this shot. I am left-handed. I have always loved the fact that Muppets are usually left-handed, so I'm always a little disappointed when I see a Muppet using his right hand for a writing utensil.
Well, it's usually like this, and this is just my theory, is that Muppets can be right-handed in larger budget shows.
When there's a second puppeteer.
Yeah, when they know that they have a second person that can do it.
Right.
I think it's also probably for framing and how the shot was set up. They just needed him to do it with his right hand.
Right. Well, he's just holding it. But then also in the background, once again, I forget which is which, but either Gil or Bill is holding a pencil in his left hand. So that makes me feel better. So.
Yeah, and Kermit is an amphibian and ambidextrous, I guess.
Oh, yes, he's
apparently,
ambidextrous. Let's go with that.
Sure.
Are we ready to move on from the Mad Ave advertising shot?
I think so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Piggy next interrupts some kissing lovers on a carriage ride in Central Park. Not much to this shot, but just interesting to think that if she hadn't interrupted them, they might have been, maybe they were about to go into a dream sequence about the two of them meeting as babies. But.
Now, true. Now, here's the thing. Now, I think that we're supposed to think that she's doing that because the guy is wearing a green jacket.
Oh, you think she actually thought that was Kermit? Oh, you're right. Yeah. He's wearing all green. Yeah. That didn't even occur to me.
Yeah, I think the reason it did it because it wasn't green enough. It was sort of this more subdued.
It should be a Kermit green. Yeah.
It should have been a bright green jacket or something along those lines.
His collar, his shirt collar is very prominently sticking out of his jacket. So yeah you're absolutely right.
So
I think that occurred to me.
Yeah, ideally it should have been more of a green suit, but I guess we're supposed to think that, maybe Miss Piggy needs glasses.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. Yeah. And the woman in the couple is wearing all pink. So she's sort of maybe Piggy.
Thought it was herself.
Thought it was her. Yes.
Hey, I'm there with Kermit.
Wait. Oh, there's me kissing Kermit. Oh, wait, no, that's not.
That's two humans.
Yeah. So then Dr. Teeth and Zoot are looking for Kermit at the New York Public Library. There's some cool things where they kind of pop in and out of the shot in different spots. This library is a very cool, stately old building at 5th Avenue and 42nd Street in Manhattan. The building was dedicated in 1911. It has been seen in a bunch of other movies, perhaps most famously at the beginning of Ghostbusters. And I assume that both of you know the names of these two lion statues that sit out front.
Yes, Patience and
Fortitude.
Yes, those are the ones. I think we're seeing Patience in this shot. If I have the angle right in my head.
The person who told me that was Michael K. Frith.
Oh,
well, no kidding.
Yeah,
that seems like something he would know. Yeah,
it sure does. Yeah.
Do you remember the context in which he told you that?
I think it was. No, it was just. I think we were probably doing something, talking about the library, or we were doing a presentation or something, and Michael will, as a way of starting the sentence with, "Of course, you know." So he would, of course, you know what the names of those lions are.
Yeah,
and
that's great.
Of course, when I didn't, it's like, oh, it's Patience and Fortitude.
Yeah, well,
and so I will. Go ahead.
Well, just that I'm a librarian, as listeners may or may not remember, and all librarians know the names of Patience and Fortitude.
Yes, that makes sense.
It's just like a thing.
Yeah. And I will just remind listeners, if you haven't listened to our special bonus episode with Michael Frith, you can go back in the feed and listen to that. So, Anthony, I think you had some more stuff about the lions.
Well, just a couple of things. You mentioned that they were present from 1911 on, but they did not get their names Patience and Fortitude until the 1930s, when Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia named them Patience and Fortitude in like a public ceremony.
Oh, they actually had like an official naming.
Yes,
Oh.
yes. Their names were bestowed upon them by the mayor, and before that, they apparently had a few other nicknames.
I've read that they were named after the Astor family at some
yeah,
point.
they were known as Lord Astor and Lady Lennox at some point.
Yeah,
Um,
not as catchy.
Right. But so they've been Patience and Fortitude since the 30s. And then I also wanted to point out that they are in, or at least the White Lion on the Jim Henson Hour kind of plays the part of one of them.
Oh, yeah.
In a sketch on that show with the a cappella group The Nylons singing The Lion Sleeps Tonight.
Yeah, that's
so that's their other Muppet connection.
Right. That's a neat little musical number.
Yeah. And then also they inspired the show Between the Lions, the puppet series on PBS that a lot of Henson and Muppet people worked on,
including Michael Frith.
Right.
Yes.
He co-created the show. Yeah, so he was thinking about Patience and Fortitude for sure.
Oh, I'm sure
when he created that show.
You kind of wonder if they were going to be naming those lions today and had like an internet contest.
Oh no!
It
would be Lion McLionface.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
I do wonder though how. I mean, he must have been pretty confident for somebody to say, "I'm the mayor. I get to name these statues." He's, and I guess nobody was going to stop him. Nobody was going to tell him, "Wait a minute. You're not in a position to do this."
No, they were too busy, all in their smoke-filled rooms, to come out.
I guess so. Yeah.
Right, but also it's the Depression. You got to raise the public spirit somehow.
Right. Yeah.
And it's by naming the lions at the public library.
Yeah. We can do this because we got patience and we got fortitude, and they're sitting right there.
They could have taken a page from Roosevelt and named the lions Fear and Fear Itself.
For sure. There you go. But
wow.
although now that I'm thinking about it, like you say, we'll get through this with Patience and Fortitude. Like it's a very Depression era name to give them. So.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And also, you think about the fact that these lions, they have to stay there. They're these guys are sitting out all the time in all kinds of weather. What are you going to name them? We'd rather be someplace else. And me too.
Right. I do remember just a few years ago, they sort of refurbished them or restored them. They had some they were under scaffolding for a little while. So yeah, they got to keep those lions in good shape. So we next catch a glimpse of activity backstage at the theater where Manhattan Melodies is being prepped. Floyd and Janice are there, which kind of makes sense because we have not seen them with the other three members of the band looking for Kermit. So I guess they're doing important work for the score of the show at the theater, something like that.
Or they just signed in so they get paid.
Yeah,
sure.
When you're doing a Broadway show, there's a sign-in sheet, for everybody that signs in, so they're there. So maybe they're just trying to get paid. I do want to point out that we see a human stagehand.
Yeah.
Moving set pieces. So I guess Beauregard can't get into the union, but he hasn't shown up yet. He come in.
Well, he is in
Gonzo's segment, right?
No, he's in the Electric Mayhem segment. So
okay.
He must have come to New York, presumably with the Mayhem, right?
Does he show up in the end with all of the frogs and bears and chickens?
He's there. Yeah. In the movie, we don't really see him do anything before that. He's glimpsed briefly with the Electric Mayhem when they get their postcard from Pete. In either the screenplay draft or the Marvel Comics adaptation, there was more where he was there with them at the festival, and then that was in the comic book adaptation. It had him actually driving all the other dogs and bears and chickens to the city, which apparently at some point they thought that they should explain where all of those other Muppets were for this part of the movie, but which is not really necessary. But yeah, so Beauregard is out there somewhere. I guess he's too busy to work on the show at this point.
Well, and also it's hard to get into the stagehands union.
Oh yeah.
You got to know somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's some guy on the payphone too, but I don't know what his job is.
I don't know if I noticed him. Yeah. What is he doing? I have no idea.
No, maybe he was just he's a union steward or something, but he's just making calls.
Yeah, he's ordering a pizza.
Did you notice that those set pieces and the set pieces that we see later on, are very similar in evocative to the two-dimensional set pieces in the Muppet movie, the finale.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The Muppets have that thing for the two-dimensional set pieces because Ronnie Crawford is a cheap producer person, and I guess that it can't afford 3 dimensions. It just reminds me of
and I guess Lou Lord is too, right?
Yeah, I guess it's
so.
If you've seen a Mighty Wind, they have the two-dimensional set pieces intermixing with the three-dimensional ones. Can you do that?
Yeah, it's interesting too because we're already watching a Muppet movie, which is a certain level of artificial, of artifice. So then we're seeing the movie within a movie or the Broadway show within a movie, which is even less realistic. So it's one further step of artifice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting point that when the Muppets are making a movie or a Broadway show, their sets are two-dimensional. But when in the reality of the movie, they're with real things.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like their version of the Muppets putting on a show is in direct contrast to what Jim Henson wanted when the Muppets were
Sure,
putting on a show.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. And I don't think they've ever really done anything with something so abstract or like the only thing I can think of is a Sesame Street production, which was not even that long ago, was that Christmas special where everything looked like a pop-up book.
Oh, yeah. Elmo's Christmas Countdown.
Yes. But the Muppet Show franchise doesn't really do stuff like that. So, yeah, that's very interesting. So Dr. Teeth and Zoot are continuing to search on the street. It's nighttime.
No. Can I say one thing?
Say one thing.
When we see them backstage, Fozzie. So in the middle of a montage of everyone yelling, Kermit, Kermit, we get a shot of Fozzie yelling, Rolf, Rolf.
Oh, yes. That totally slipped right by me, but yes.
So is Fozzie working with the sheet music? Is that like
he passes by right by the camera out of focus.
Ronnie also can't afford a music copyist.
Right. But there's also just something so Fozzie about the fact that he's yelling Rolf while everyone else is yelling Kermit.
That is actually hilarious. Yes.
Well, odds are if you find Rolf, Kermit's not going to be very far behind.
That's
right.
True. That's true.
Yeah. That's.
You might say it would be at arm's length.
Right. Yeah. That's funny. Okay. Anyways.
Okay. Now there's so many shots in this, and we have so many things to say about this. About every single one. I love it. So now we see Dr. Teeth and Zoot. They're still searching on the street at night. And then the camera pushes in on a manhole cover. And who rises up under the manhole cover? It's Animal. He's looking for Kermit in the sewer, apparently. There's all this steam coming out. It looks very cool.
It's like super intense. It looks like something out of like RoboCop or something. Like,
yeah.
And that Animal's violating some sort of law from being in there,
Yeah, you're not supposed to go down there. You're not supposed to take those manhole covers off unless you work for the sanitation department.
Now, Animal must be very, very strong.
Oh, yeah.
To do what he does, because those manhole covers are those, what do they call them? Personnel access ports now, in a non-sexist term.
Right. Because it's not just men using them.
Right. They are very heavy. They are up to and including 3 pounds. I mean, they're pretty. They're solid iron or steel or something.
Up to and including how much?
I don't know. 3 pounds, but it's probably
at least
it's probably like 150 pounds.
I would imagine it. Yeah, that's just solid.
You didn't look up how much a manhole cover
I didn't.
weighs?
I should have. Should we pause and do that?
No, I think we're all right.
I think we're okay with that.
How much? Okay. Well, everyone at home, please.
Should we have a contest? Everyone at home, email Ryan. See if you.
Yeah.
Do we have a prize for the winner? You get an actual manhole cover.
Yes. But you have to pay the postage. Yeah. Right. Everyone at home, pause and then give your best guess, and then look up to see if you're right.
Anthony, did Ryan ever tell you about when I was gonna say I forced, but I didn't force Ryan and Joe to bring giant Statler and Waldorf stuffed toys home on the subway with them.
No, I have never heard about this.
Well, it was a Swedish chef.
Oh, it was a Swedish chef.
Yeah. We had that when Joe and I lived together. That was in our apartment for a very long time. And then Joe ended up sending it to his parents. So it's still there, I think, in their kitchen or something. But yeah, that was a lot of fun, that subway ride back with this life-size, like person-sized Swedish Chef stuffed animal.
Larger than life, yeah.
Yes. And we ended up making a video with it, which I believe is on YouTube, of the Swedish Chef, like all over New York City. So yet another thing to link to.
That was your own
notes.
montage, you know.
Yes, exactly. We did our own. He wasn't looking for Kermit, but it was our own all over New York City montage. So that was fun.
Were you singing the music?
No, it was the soundtrack was New York's Not My Home by Jim Croce.
Oh, okay.
I'll let everyone find that. So anything else about the animal with the manhole cover?
No, I don't think so.
All right.
Oh, the other thing. Oh, I do have one. It would have been a great opportunity to have some of the rats pop up.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
Animal.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But they're all at Sardi's, presumably.
Maybe
I guess
Frank makes the director's cut. He can add some rats in with CG.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sure.
Oh, that'd be horrifying.
Yeah. I guess he hasn't really worked with CG a lot. I guess there must have been some in Bowfinger when Eddie Murphy runs across the freeway.
There's a CG robot dog in Stepford Wives.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a lot of, or I don't know how much CG, but certainly a lot of effects work was in the Indian in the Cupboard.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
right.
That would have been kind of like right at the moment when there was a lot
it's hard to find real 12-inch people.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
The casting call is very tough for that.
Yeah. The next thing we see is we catch another glimpse of Kermit. He's now at a fancy restaurant with his fellow frogs. He is reading the Wall Street Journal. This is the paper edition, not the rubber one.
Nice.
Now, it looks like, though, if you read it, it's the New York Financial Journal.
Is it?
I don't think it's
actually... a little, yeah, it was a little out of focus, but yeah, you're right. There's too many words for it to be the Wall Street Journal. The New York Financial Journal.
I'm assuming they just didn't want to use the trademark.
Yeah, so that's just a made up newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But there is an ad for Manhattan Melodies on the back. Once again, they're really killing it with this Manhattan Melodies ad campaign.
Now, it should be pointed out that if you were to get an ad in today or in 2019, a full-page ad in the Eastern edition of the Wall Street Journal, by comparison, would cost $125,000.
Wow.
So in 1984, that would be about $50,000. So we know where Ronnie Crawford is putting the money.
Okay, so that explains why he has to resort to rehearsing in a diner.
He's not spending it, he's, as they say, he's not putting it on in the behind the scenes stuff. He's selling that show.
The show might be terrible, but everyone's going to know about it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's it seems like that was sort of what David Merrick, a famous theatrical producer, was known for his advertising stunts. And, one of the most notable ones was there was a show of his. I can't remember which one it is, but a show opened and got generally poor reviews from all of the New York critics. And he went out and he got his advertising company to find people with the same names as the critics.
Right. Yeah.
And
I heard about this.
He invited them to come see the show and write their own reviews. And then when he ran the ad, he ran their reviews with their names next to it.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, so it's just like some guy named Frank Rich or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Huh. Wow. I guess you can't do that for very long until you get some kind of
tough.
cease and desist or whatever. But wow, yeah, that is really clever. That's a lot better than like that time in the 90s when one of the studios made up a fake film critic that they started quoting on their posters. Yeah, they got caught really quick.
Now you're talking about Dave Manning.
David Manning, was that? Yeah, okay. Yes. I thought that was it, but it wasn't.
Who I know reviewed The Animal starring Rob Schneider. I know there were others, but that's the one I always think of.
He gave it a rave review.
He said the producing team behind Big Daddy delivers another winner. think about that all the time.
As you should. Yes. All right. Are we ready to move on to the next thing?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So we see a crowd of reporters and photographers, and then Gonzo pushing his way through. He is shouting, Mr. Mayor, emergency, move back. And the crowd parts to reveal Ed Koch, the real life mayor of New York City at this time. Gonzo says, I'm looking for a frog who can sing and dance. And Ed Koch says, if he can also balance the budget, I'll hire him. Now,
Yes, it happens.
yeah, he's not bad. And I will say his comic timing is considerably better than New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who made a cameo in the 2008 TV special, A Muppet's Christmas Letters to Santa.
Yes.
He is not as funny in that as Ed Koch is here.
Right. And we should also note that one of the mayors in between, David Dinkins, was on Sesame Street as himself.
Right.
He gave Gordon an award for cleaning up a vacant lot.
Yeah.
But so of 4 New York City mayors in a row, 3 of them worked with the Muppets, and the other one is Rudy Giuliani. So that tells you not to get too political, but it tells you something that he's the one who didn't work with the Muppets.
Yeah, but I believe there is still a Muppet connection to Rudy Giuliani. I believe his first wife was related to one of the Henson producers at some point.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, I think he was married to the sister of one of the Henson producers. But the Ed Koch, it should be pointed out, also appeared on Saturday Night Live. I mean,
yes, he hosted. Yeah, I have more on Ed Koch. He hosted SNL. He was the mayor from 1978 to 1989, and yeah, he played himself or versions of himself in a bunch of other TV shows and movies, including My Two Dads, Picket Fences, Spin City, Sex and the City, and movies including The First Wives Club. And he hosted the People's Court for a while.
That's what I always think of him from, because the summer of 1999, I broke my leg, and I watched People's Court starring Judge Ed Koch almost every day.
Oh, wow.
During that.
So you think of him first from the People's Court, and then as the mayor, and then from Muppets Take Manhattan, or
probably, if I'm being honest, Muppets Take Manhattan first, People's Court second,
and then New York City.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
We should. There was a movie. If you've seen a great New York movie called The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Now the mayor in The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. It's a great character. You know, it's depicted in, you know, you see him a little bit, and then just the reactions to the mayor. You know, you're on the street of New York, and everybody you just hear boos, and your focus is on the cops in front, and all they say is, "Oh, mayor's here." And the mayor in Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3 is kind of evocative of Ed Koch, even though this was years before Ed Koch took office.
I was going to say, right. So It was just a coincidence?
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting. I also learned just today in looking stuff up that he hosted an online movie review show called The Mayor at the Movies, although I could not find any episodes or where it was available when it was on.
He was a big movie lover.
Yeah, apparently.
It was probably like a real player file or a QuickTime file that you had to click on.
A real video, yeah, you had to download, and those were the days.
Now, according to the internet, the 1984 proposed New York City budget by the mayor was $18.3 billion. It was 9 volumes and 4,246 pages.
Wow.
So Kermit would not even be able to carry the budget, let alone that.
Right. Wow, it takes a lot to run a city, huh?
Well, that was a long time ago. Now it's 90 billion or something.
Even more,
like
yeah. And then Muppet Wiki tells us that in 1981, Koch appeared at a kids' art contest ceremony in Manhattan with Big Bird. And he was in Muppet Magazine in 1983 with Gonzo for the Great Muppet Lookalike Contest.
Oh, and he looks like Gonzo,
I
supposedly?
guess that's the implication. But it's funny that here he is working with Gonzo again. Also, in my research for this season, I found some stuff about a ceremony at the Central Park Bandshell on June 14th, 1983. So, like, I guess around the time they were filming this, Ed Koch and the Muppets appeared at this event to proclaim that it was a special summer salute to motion picture and television production in New York City. This was a time when they were trying to encourage a lot of production to move to New York or to be in New York. The New York Daily News apparently covered this event in 2 different columns on the same day, the day after this event. One of them recounts this exchange between Ed Koch and Gonzo, where it says, grasping Gonzo by the head, Koch said, "Look at that face," as my mother used to say. "We're both a couple of beauties, aren't we?" Gonzo observed. "Gonzo, who pays your salary?" Koch asked. "Kermit does." "That's what he's been telling you?" Koch asked incredulously. "He hasn't actually paid me anything yet, but he said it's coming," Gonzo answered. "That's what I tell municipal labor leader Victor Goldbaum," Koch quipped. So I'm sure that got a huge laugh from the press and the city employees who were gathered there.
Yeah, Ed knew how to zing him.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And then the other article talked about Koch asking if he was going to get a dressing room and a star for making his cameo in the movie. And Gonzo said, "You'll get an exploding suit, you'll get your head shaved, and we'll put on a little beard. We'll have to do something about the nose." And then Kermit went on to tell Ed Koch that after making a movie in Hollywood and a movie in London, they wanted to come to New York for the heat and humidity. That's pretty funny. Koch said, "We have a giant pool for you, the biggest pool in the world," which doesn't really make sense, but the writer of this column assumed that he was referring to the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming.
Yeah.
It's
Well, if it was in Central Park, it's quite possible they may have been near the reservoir.
That's true. That might have been what he meant. And then Kermit is quoted in this column as saying, "Fine, I've seen your slums already." Which can that be accurate? Like, did Kermit say that to the mayor of New York City?
It's possible, but
I guess in an off the cuff, spontaneous.
Could have been an ad lib. I don't think it would have.
Yeah.
I will tell you that when you're writing these sorts of things for the bureaucrats and the people who run the city,
right? Because you've had to write stuff like this before.
I have. Yeah. We had Mayor Bloomberg be at the announcement of the Henson exhibit coming to the Museum of the Moving Image.
Oh, yeah.
So I wrote some stuff for him to do with Miss Piggy, and it goes through many layers of back and forth. And then, the mayor himself will usually not get to see it until the day of.
Right.
Sure.
Because there's so many events happening. And most of the time they're fine. They just do it, but they always want to add their own little flair to it and try and be funny, which, is not always successful. But if people want to see that, I think you can still see it on YouTube. Maybe you can put it in the show notes, a presentation at the Museum of the Moving Image with the mayor.
I was there, and I don't remember his comic timing at that event being any better than it was in the Letters to Santa special, unfortunately. No. So, and then one more thing about this ceremony. In that same Museum of the Moving Image video event with Frank Oz and Dave Goelz last year, Dave Goelz recalled performing at this event, and he said he didn't know when his cue was supposed to be to bring Gonzo up and start talking to Ed Koch. So he had Gonzo pop up way too early. And Frank Oz whispered to him, "You are so screwed," because then Dave just had to hold Gonzo up on his arm for, however many minutes until it was actually time for him to speak. So,
wow.
Yeah. Fun stuff. Next, was there anything else about Ed Koch?
No, but I think it's, it's really it's a nice thing to have. This movie is really a love letter to New York City at a time when not a lot of movies were being shot in New York City. And the ones that were, up until sort of the tide turned at the beginning of the 80s, where you had things like Arthur and things that were a little more uplifting. But before then, you had, the worst things happening. You had, Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3.
Exactly.
And Fort Apache, the Bronx, and the Warriors, and West Side Story, and all of these things where New York was shown as this awful playground of a wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Yeah, that's true. There are no muggers in this movie or anything like that. So,
and from this point on,
no, there is one mugger, but he's not a very dangerous mugger.
Yeah, and as you see the New York changing a little bit too, and becoming a more polished and safer and fun place, the movies reflected that, and you started seeing things like Arthur and My Favorite Year, which is really a period piece, but was shot around that time. And you really didn't have a lot of active studios running at that point. I think the Kaufman Astoria Studios was just being revived with The Wiz. And,
sure, yeah.
The stages where they shot Muppets Take Manhattan don't exist anymore.
I haven't been able to find much about that. Do you know anything about when did they cease to exist, or what?
I don't. I know it's the Empire City stages,
right.
And I think they were in Long Island City, so it's not far from where the Henson office is now, and not far from the Astoria Studios. But I don't know exactly where they were.
Okay. So the next thing we see is, so Ralph, Fozzie, Gonzo, and Camilla now are yelling for Kermit in the city. He's nowhere to be found still. So then we go back to Pete's, where everyone is sitting in a booth. They're all depressed. Jenny says she thought opening night was supposed to be exciting. For those keeping track, Jenny is now wearing a seahorse pin on her uniform. So she has changed pins once again.
Wow.
Yeah. So Dr. Teeth replies, it's not exciting without our little green buddy. I like that Dr. Teeth turn of phrase. Ronnie suggests canceling the show, but Fozzie won't hear it. He says it is opening night tonight and the show must go on. And I like that Fozzie is the guy who kind of steps in to give these little speeches and pep talks when Kermit either can't do it or to kind of offer support for Kermit. He gave
we don't want the bad guys to win.
Exactly. Yeah. That speech in Great Muppet Caper. And then in the 2011 movie, he gave it you should be ashamed of yourselves. We can't give up. We have to save the theater speech. Fozzie can step up when he has to.
Absolutely. Is your summary done?
That's it for the actual clip that I have.
So you notice Ronnie is pretty quick to suggest canceling the show.
Yeah.
So this makes me wonder about the veracity of the whole venture. And if this wasn't some sort of Bialystok and Bloom situation.
Whoa, it's the producer scam.
I'm thinking, is Bernard Crawford sending his son out, says, Ronnie, go find me the worst show you can find with the most ridiculous cast, something that will fail overnight. Because I've Art Carney's going around with all these little old ladies.
Yeah.
Lonnie Price does seem like someone who would stand up and yell, I want everything I've ever seen in the movies.
So he's raised tons of money to put on the show, and as we know, he's spent very little of it.
Yeah, clearly.
There you go. Yeah,
all of the we know from the earlier speech is that my dad's going to give us all of the costumes and stuff, which I think is probably in a warehouse someplace.
Yeah,
he's got a warehouse full of costumes and set pieces and props from shows that he's done this with. I think that maybe is Bernard Crawford in cahoots with Martin Price.
Whoa!
And this is a paradigm shifting revelation.
Now, as they say on all those all of those Fox shows, I'm just asking questions here.
Sure.
I'm not making any statements that could be defamatory or libelous to the Crawfords.
Yeah.
I'm just asking questions because if I, for the sake of argument, took out a lot of, Ronnie Crawford brings Bernard this thing and Bernard's like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen.
Right.
I'm going to take out a ton of insurance. I'm taking out millions of dollars of insurance on this show. Then Bernard Crawford gets on the phone hires a guy to pretend to be a taxi driver and run down the author and star of the show.
Oh, this web is getting more tangled.
Yeah, just hear me out. And I'm just asking questions.
Yeah.
So a guy runs down Kermit. Kermit's out of the picture. And Bernard thinks that, okay, I can collect all this insurance. I got millions of insurance. I can't lose. And then
the perfect time.
And then Kermit is found. I don't want to spoiler or Kermit's going to be found.
Yes, that's fine.
And then, the end of this movie should be Art Carney in jail because he was, and you're going to love this, Ryan, because he was at the center of this Cosmo scam. It all turns around to the Muppet cinematic universe.
Yeah.
Because he started doing this when his plan to switch places with Santa failed.
Sure.
Right. So it's the same guy.
So yeah, I can't switch places with Santa.
Wow.
So I will go into show business.
Right. And so just for a little footnote here, it's Cosmo Scam being the villain from the Great Santa Claus Switch Muppet TV special.
Also played by Art Carney.
Right. Yes. Thank you. Wow. That's, it's
a lot to chew on.
A lot of moving pieces there, but I certainly can't disprove it. So
I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying this is what happened.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. I think you might be onto something there. Yeah. Internet sleuths get to work.
Yeah. Because, he raised a lot of money to put on the show, but it's certainly, I guess when you see the sets and everything, there's a lot of people there, a lot of cast members in the wedding.
Yeah.
So I guess there's some money being spent, but
I guess so. Yeah. But yeah, obviously things didn't go according to his plan.
And I'm wondering how long this ran, the Manhattan Melodies.
We see opening night and that's it. Yeah. There's no indication.
Yeah, it does seem like it ran for one night. Kermit and Piggy got married and then it's over.
That was it. Everything was leading up to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would have been funny if there had been like a on the screen at the very end, a title that just said like Manhattan Melodies ran for 500 performances.
Well, that's the problem with, I think it would have been great to do that. And you got to think about, okay, you're running this show. Who's going to replace these characters? Who's going to replace
That's a great
Kermit
question, yeah.
when his contract ends?
Yeah.
Is Brian Darcy James going to come in and play Kermit the Frog?
I love
Foster as Miss Piggy.
I don't really see him as a Kermit type.
Yeah, I see him as way more of like maybe Ralph Fozzie.
Yeah, maybe Fozzie.
Okay, so Hugh Jackman as Kermit.
Okay,
sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, in a way, it kind of goes back to the early 30s, right? Like the first big wave of Broadway musicals, where you don't expect anyone to take over in Animal Crackers.
Well, yeah, it would run a
Or,
season. It would run one season,
right?
go out on tour for the summer, and that would be it.
Yeah,
right. You make
time.
Girl Crazy. Ethel Merman's gone. That show's closing, right?
Because as Noah Diamond can tell you, if you're listening, a lot of these theaters in New York were hot as hell in the summertime. They didn't have shows going on in the summer.
Oh,
Sure.
right.
They would do the show from during the fall season and into the winter, and then they would take the show on the road in the summertime.
Pre-air conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking questions, and I don't want to get ahead to I don't want to infringe on other people's minutes.
No, but, please.
But as you watch that in the future, keep that in mind.
Yes.
Was this show intended to be a hit?
Yeah.
I guess Art Carney does look happy, but is he just acting?
Well, he looks happy, yeah. So, wow. Yeah, I think you may have just busted the whole thing wide open. So, wow.
And it would have been really funny if when Animal thrusts open the manhole cover, Art Carney is in there with him. Dressed as Ed Norton.
Dressed as Ed Norton, sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's a sewer worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, Jackie Gleason was still alive,
Yeah.
They could have pulled him in too.
Exactly.
So he's out there driving that bus somewhere.
He should have
exactly.
driving the bus, yeah.
He should have driven a bus that hits Kermit. There you
Absolutely. Yeah.
go. Ralph Cramden.
The bus hits Kermit and Jackie Gleason comes out and goes, homina, homina, homina.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. That was everything I had for what actually happens. In the March 7th, 1983 draft, there's also a moment where Scooter is on top of the Empire State Building and he is looking for Kermit through a telescope on the observation deck. That's a cute gag. I kind of wish they left that in. And then in the Marvel Comics adaptation, there's a panel where Dr. Teeth and Floyd and Zoot are in a boat looking for Kermit in the harbor near the Statue of Liberty. And then Rizzo pops out of Zoot's saxophone yelling for Kermit. That would have been fun to see. I don't think they've ever done a gag quite like that, as far as I can remember, with a little tiny Muppet popping out of the saxophone. But they should do that.
Yeah. I think that some of the, they got away from some of the sillier things in this film. They were sort of going on the reality because, as you know, there were supposed to be little people living in the lockers.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that some of those more ridiculous plot points got sort of shoved aside and they concentrated more on more character and moments.
Right.
But the one thing I wanted to add about the end of that sequence, and Fozzie is as warm and encouraging as he is, the whole show must go on thing. It's not true. We just, we experienced a pandemic. The show must not go on. The show did not go on.
The show had to not go on.
The show has not gone on for months.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that, it's encouraging and it's a nice thing to say the show must go on. But there are certain times when it can't go on. And I'm curious, and I'm asking a question and I know Fozzie can't answer me, but what was plan B?
Oh, that's a great question, because they knew at the beginning of the 2 weeks that they didn't know where Kermit was.
Right.
So they were betting everything on finding Kermit within the next 2 weeks.
I mean, do they call Lenny the Lizard like they did in the Muppet Show? I mean, is there an understudy?
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's a few. We got Lenny the Lizard. We got Kermit the Pig. We could bring in Kermit the Gorf or Kermit the Groff or Kermit the Ford. Right?
Exactly. And they'd be wearing T-shirts so it was them.
Right. Exactly. Just like in Merrily We Roll Along.
Exactly. Which Lonnie Price was in.
Exactly.
That keeps coming up. Wow. If they don't have an understudy for Kermit, then they're very short-sighted.
What is the option? Because sometimes the show does not go on. And the story is that, I don't know, Stephanie probably didn't come up, but in the off-Broadway production of Avenue Q, this was, I think, before the official opening off Broadway, Rick Lyon fell off the stage.
Oh no.
And so that night's preview had to be canceled. The show did not go on.
Rick Lyon, who played Trekkie Monster and Nikki.
Yeah, so they all were leaving the theater, and I believe they were leaving the theater as someone was arriving to see the show. And I think and I think that someone, and Stephanie would correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Frank.
Oh.
And he was coming to see everybody, and he was sort of surprised to see the entire cast leaving the theater.
Yeah, hey, you're going the wrong way, guys.
Yeah, so they had to explain that, the show had been canceled. So I think they had to cancel that performance, and they spent the weekend restaging the show. So Rick could do the voices of his characters from off stage while it was restaged so Jen Barnhart could manipulate his characters.
Oh, wow.
And they had to do a lot more handing off and a lot more people holding characters So it was completely restaged to make that happen. And I think that's how the show, I think the show opened off Broadway with that. And then, once Rick's leg had healed, and they put him back into the show and everything took over. But that's, sometimes the show can't go on because at that point off Broadway, there weren't understudies. There was no budget for understudies in off Broadway.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
the show can't go on. So Fozzie, you're wrong.
Yeah, Fozzie.
I think
Get out of here, bear.
It's a great mantra to say the show must go on.
Yeah.
And it's, a great saying, but sometimes it's just not possible. So I'm really curious as to if Kermit was not found miraculously in the next 2 minutes I think it's the next 2 minutes.
I think it must be.
I think so.
Or
I think it happens next week. Yes, we'll see.
If Kermit was not miraculously found as he went into one of the 10 million luncheonettes in New York City, accidentally, what was Plan B for Manhattan Melodies?
Yes, that's a great question.
Was Scooter, the stage manager, just going to be standing there reading Kermit's lines?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Because that's a great way to open a Broadway show.
Yeah, and then Scooter marries Piggy at the end.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. No, that's all very, very good questions. So do we have any other final thoughts about this whole clip or this whole sequence? Craig, starting with you.
Well, I think I want to say how much I really love this movie.
Sure.
And, so I really love this movie. And
there, you said it.
I would have paid to see Manhattan Melodies. And I looked it up. In 1984, the top Broadway ticket price was about $47.50.
Okay.
So it's a bargain,
Yeah.
$47.50 to see just the idea of seeing these animals sing and dance.
Oh, absolutely. Come on. A chicken dancing, yeah.
It's like, hey, wow, that got my money's worth.
I can only assume that even with inflation, the top Broadway ticket price now is much, much more.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Because when you look at what people go to see in movies, there's some sort of weird thing of what people will go to see in New York in a movie. You'll go to see Kong, the Seventh Wonder of the World,
right?
In supper club clothing and dress up, even though you don't know what it is.
I just recently rewatched King Kong, and that is so weird that people are buying tickets and going into the theater and sitting down and saying like, "Oh, I thought this was a movie. Is this not a movie?"
Yeah.
And it's very strange.
Because Carl Denham spent more on advertising than Ronnie Crawford.
It's all those all those
question.
King Kong posters. Yeah.
And you think about it just as a production of, we're going to show a pig and a bear and all these people singing and dancing. You'd pay $47.50 to see that.
Yeah, although it's not even the selling point. You would think on the poster it would say, "See this singing and dancing bears and frogs and pigs and chickens," but
because you think about it, the last time they tried to get, last time there was a singing frog playing on Broadway, nobody wanted to see him. It was in a Warner Brothers cartoon
until they got
free beer.
Free beer, exactly.
Is that the sign that they're going to put outside of the Biltmore Theater? They filled the place without having to put a free beer sign.
Oh man!
Now, has Kermit ever sang "Hello, my baby, hello, my darling"? I don't think he has, and it's a missed opportunity.
No, I don't think so. I think that there's a certain frog that has a monopoly on that song.
I guess so. Yeah,
that's right. Which they make a joke about that on Muppets Tonight. Remember, Fred Willard was at the employment agency, and Kermit says, "What about the WWB?" And Fred Willard says, "They already have a frog."
There you go. All right, so that joke has been made. Okay.
Yep.
There was a very small period of time when that joke could be made.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. Specifically about the WB.
And it was exactly when Muppets Tonight was on. So it worked out.
Yeah, serendipity.
So I will say that I love the movie, and I like the I really love these 2 minutes, and I still have I believe in next room I have a little souvenir. Well, I have a couple of souvenirs from this film. I do have. Oh. One of the, I think I have a Manhattan Melodies playbill, which is basically a Manhattan Melodies playbill cover wrapped around another playbill. And I don't remember what the other playbill was.
Okay.
Awesome. That's great.
And I do believe I have a Danhurst College sticker.
Oh,
wow.
And Danhurst College, which you probably talked about back then, was Vassar.
Right.
Right. Yes.
And then I have a light stand that years ago when I was doing some production, David Gumpel was replacing some of the equipment in the old Henson studio, and he let me take this little light kit. And the light kit pieces have fallen apart and by the wayside, but there is a light stand in that kit that I still have and still use, and written in marker on the light stand, it just says MM3.
Ah,
Muppet Movie 3.
Wow.
That's great.
Yeah, that's so cool.
What a thrill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Light stand.
Yeah. No one else has that light stand. So, Anthony, any final thoughts on the clip?
No, I'm spent, I think.
All right. So, Craig, we like to ask all our guests on this podcast, do you remember the first time you saw this movie? How do you rank it alongside the other Muppet movies? What's your history with it? Now, I'm sure this will be interesting because you have worked with many of the people who worked on this movie, but you weren't working at Henson just yet when it was made.
That is true. I believe I saw this movie. This came out July or June of 1984. Is that?
I think it was July.
June, July, yeah.
Oh, was it June?
June. So that was the summer I graduated from high school.
Okay.
So I probably saw it over the summer in the Rockaway Town Square Mall theaters, which I don't believe exist anymore.
Sure.
And I don't remember who I would have seen it with, but I think I made a point of seeing it at the theater.
Sure.
And then in the years since, I've seen it on various screenings and events that we've done.
Yeah.
And it's I would rank it definitely in the top 3 of all Muppet movies. I think that there was a time when I think I would have ranked it behind only Muppet Movie.
Okay.
But as one matures, you get more appreciation for the Great Muppet Caper, I believe.
Sure.
Because it's more sophisticated in what it tries to accomplish, and you have more an appreciation for people like Diana Rigg and Charles Grodin, who we just lost. And I had a chance to meet Grodin and work with him a little bit. And he's such a charming man, and someone who so appreciated the Muppets and working with the Muppets. And he was so proud of his performance with Miss Piggy and would always like to talk about it. He always considered Miss Piggy to be one of his top leading ladies, and was always quite real in his connection. So I think that I would probably rank this number 3 out of the major films.
Sure.
Just Great. Because I kind of like it when the Muppets play versions of themselves. And as much as I appreciate, I think that Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island are great films. There's something not that authentic about when the Muppets are acting as other characters. I kind of like to see them as versions of themselves, because the more distance you put between, of a Muppet playing a character, and you do it too many times, the audiences lose that base connection with the original character. That's
a really good point. Yeah,
sure.
And I think that after Muppet Christmas Carol, I was working there. I didn't have anything to say about it, but I thought that, Tim Curry is brilliant, and I wrote the Muppet Treasure Island CD-ROM game. I had a great time doing that. But if it were up to me, I probably wouldn't have done Treasure Island as the next Muppet movie. I would have done it, a couple of movies later, just to give another movie where the Muppets are playing themselves, so the audience can get reconnected. Because at that time, it had been quite a while since, I guess Muppets Take Manhattan was the last one before Christmas
Carol. Yeah.
So I probably would have wanted to do something like Muppets from Space before going on to doing another classic story.
Yeah.
But that's just me, because I love the characters so much, and I want to make sure that audiences continue to relate to them as their characters and not as playing other roles.
Yeah, and not just like a a small collection of characteristics who are mapped onto other existing characters.
Which is not to say that those are not great movies. I think they are.
No, they are. Yeah.
Brian Henson did a wonderful job, particularly with Christmas Carol. I think it's one of the most beautiful Christmas movies, and you see people that are Dickens experts, and they will mention that as one of the purest retellings of a Christmas Carol.
Right, which is great.
And I think it's everyone did a great job on that. But there's something, it's more about just making sure the characters aren't forgotten, and I think that it's hard for that to happen when they're playing other roles.
Yeah, sure.
But that's sort of my that's my.
Well, I think I probably won't. I think we should probably just wrap it up.
All right.
You won't? Is it because I talk too much?
No, heavens no. It's because I have nothing I say will add value to what you're saying is what I mean.
Let's do the next 2 minutes while we're here. Come on. Let's
that'd be great.
Let's start on the can we throw in the trailer? Let's do the trailer.
That way, we've never covered a trailer before.
Should we do you could do a special episode with the EPK. You want to do the EPK?
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
I don't know if we have it, but
and
there's
another People's Court. You mentioned Ed Koch, the narrator of the Muppets Take Manhattan electronic press kit, was the People's Court's Doug Llewellyn.
Is that right?
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Just filled with these historical goodies like that.
Right. Who was later parodied on Muppets Tonight as Bug Llewellyn. Also.
Yeah.
When Judge Wapner was on Muppets Tonight.
With Whoopi Goldberg.
See, everything connects.
Everything.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that's great. Well, I guess I will say the thing I was going to say about Muppet Treasure Island then, which is, Craig, you're a Marx Brothers fan, so I'll say this. I tend to think of Muppet Treasure Island the same way as A Day at the Races, like for the reason you just said, which is that A Night at the Opera, I think is like Zeppo's gone, we're at MGM, let's do something different, and it's brilliant. Christmas Carol, Jim had passed away, let's do something different, and it's brilliant. And then A Day at the Races and Treasure Island are both just like, let's do that again. Sure.
Yeah.
Good enough.
Yeah.
But
I wonder who the Thalberg was that was making that call at Disney. If it was
at Disney, or Eisner. I don't know. Probably neither of those guys. I don't know who's the producer. Martin Baker, but who's the Disney?
I don't know.
At that point, I don't know. It may have been Katzenberg. May have still been there. I'm not sure.
I think he left in between there, though. Didn't he leave right around
the fact of the matter is, I think that once Jim was no longer there to do Kermit, I think that there was a concern that I think they wanted to have the character protected within the shield of playing a role.
Sure.
And I think that way there was to help Steve get to the point where he could play the role, freely, that if there was the support, Kermit playing the captain or Kermit playing
Bob
Cratchit, there was something that Steve could lean on over and above bringing Kermit to the thing. So that may have said something to do with it. And I think it was some of the same logic behind putting Clifford out in the front of Muppets Tonight.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So Kermit is there, but he's not front and center.
Yeah. But I think that we can't go back and change time.
Right.
But like I said, those movies are good. Even what's your position, Anthony, on A Night in Casablanca?
I think that's one of the better ones of the later ones.
Yeah, I agree. In fact,
I think back half that might be the best one. And
that would be the Marx Brothers' second to last film.
Yes.
Well, it depends on if do you count Love Happy as
Love Happy sort of has an asterisk.
We are now transitioning to the Marx Brothers podcast.
Podcast. Well, as long as we're talking about it, I'll say that I kind of like Love Happy. Actually, I think it's better than Go West. I think it's better than The Big Store.
I haven't seen it in too long.
It doesn't really feel like a Marx Brothers movie, like you say, because Groucho's barely in it and doesn't hardly interact with his brothers. But Harpo gets to do a lot of great stuff.
It's a Harpo movie, yeah.
It's a Harpo movie. He has a pet penguin who's dressed like him, inexplicably. I love that.
And it's also notable for one of the earliest instances of product placement.
Right. And the product placement scene is very funny too. Like it's well into, and I mean, it has like Vera Ellen does a great dance number. I don't know. It's not a bad little movie.
Let's start on minutes 1 and 2 of Night in Casablanca. We start with Harpo leaning against the building.
Right.
This is going to go on for a while, folks.
Oh man, that'd be fun.
I feel like we should at least tell the punchline of that gag though before we.
Well, of course, it's the cop coming up and say, "What are you doing there? Are you holding up that building or something?"
And then Harpo lets go, and the building falls over.
Yeah,
and that has to be like the most expensive gag in a low-budget film ever.
Oh, right. Absolutely. Yeah,
it's wild. Yeah.
And for more information, listen to the Marx Brothers podcast episode they did on Night at Casablanca with Eddie Giesen.
Yeah.
Yes,
that was fun. Check that out.
Control your volume accordingly.
Yes, the Marx Brothers Council podcast, everyone.
Yeah. We recommended it when Noah was here, but let's recommend it again. Great podcast.
Of course, yeah. So,
can I plug my upcoming book?
Well, yes, I was gonna. So, yes, go ahead. Plug your upcoming book.
For people who are still listening after the Marx Brothers diversion, I have a book and it's upcoming, and it's called Sam and Friends: The Story of Jim Henson's First Television Show.
I'm so excited.
Written by me with a foreword by the wonderful Frank Oz, the director of this movie.
We have heard of him.
And he was wonderful. And the way to get Frank Oz to write a foreword for your book is to have quadruple bypass surgery after you ask him. And then he kind of has to, he has to, you guilt him into doing it. But no, he actually agreed to do it before I even told him that. I think that he followed through on it was probably because I had the surgery.
That was a very clever ploy. And everyone out there, if you want Frank to write your foreword, that's what you do.
Yeah, but it's we're really getting close to going through everything for a third or fourth time, and I just had some more folks look at it. Ryan's looked at it. What do you think?
It's great. If Sam and Friends is a part of Muppet history that we don't know a lot about. We know some things and we know more than we used to, thanks to stuff like Brian J. Jones's Jim Henson documentary. But yeah, this is going to be like more than we ever hoped to know about this, like the specifics of how the show was made and what Jim was doing at the time. And
I'm so excited.
Can we tell people that you have an episode guide of like everything that you were
Absolutely,
able to find?
Yeah. It's still being assembled, but
episodes that we have never heard about before.
I went through, and the Henson Archive and Karen Falke are wonderful. I have in my hallway now all of the surviving acetate recordings of Sam and Friends.
Amazing.
Wow.
And they also found about 45 reel-to-reel tapes that Jim Henson recorded of the audio of Sam and Friends episodes from 1958 to the end of the run.
Yeah.
So I've gone through that. I've been going through the scripts that survive. So there's going to be a fairly complete episode guide from 1958 to the end of the show. And before then, there's a list of all of the songs that were used, and we have acetates from. We don't know when they were used on the show, when the acetates were made. So I've gone through, and we've identified as many as possible through the help of a good panel of pop culture experts. And there are summaries and little factoids about every song used, and summaries of all of the sketches that Jim had written. So you can get, the only thing we don't know is what the visuals were that went with a lot of these. Right. And we have reprinted 5 scripts in their entirety.
Wow.
And everything else, we just have summaries and talk about, there's a whole chapter that just summarizes the surviving shows. And, there's a lot about the making of. And Brian J. Jones was also kind enough to share a lot of the research he did for his book with me. So the first half is all about the history of the show and how it came about. And the story of Jim and Jane working together on it, and then the second half is the whole episode guide.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I cannot wait to read it.
Yes, I think casual fans are going to like it because there's so much interest in Jim Henson and the Muppets and the early work, and like it's also you make some connections between the stuff that they were doing on the Muppet Show and how Sam and Friends sort of led up to that, which is great because people are watching the Muppet Show on Disney Plus now. Yeah,
there are a lot of connections, and when you think about it, Sam and Friends, the Muppet Show is made up of several episodes of a Sam and Friends type.
Yeah,
of
essentially, yeah, it's just short bits. All
the same type of thing, always kind of on the short side, and it's a fun trip. I mean, there's going to be more than 100 pictures in it that many have never been seen or published before.
Ooh.
A lot of pictures by Jim Henson that were found fairly recently.
Wow! So
it's just going to be a really fun. It's a labor of love, and I'm really doing this because, I want this information to be available and be on the record. And I want to thank Karen Falk, and I want to thank every member of the Henson family for allowing me to do this, because it's not a Henson company project. It's a project I came to ask them to participate in. So it's only through their generosity and the generosity of our good friends at the Disney company and the Muppet Studio who allowed all of this to happen.
Sure. Yeah, so that is going to be fantastic. Do you have a date or a rough idea of when it'll be out?
No, I don't. I mean, I would love to be able to get it to the publisher by early summer, but maybe late summer or fall, and it could be out by the end of the year, but probably more likely beginning of next.
All right. Well, we will absolutely be covering that on the Tough Pigs website when it comes out. And speaking of which, everyone can follow us on toughpigs.com on the internet and on Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere else. Our logo is by Morgan Davy. Our theme music is by Stacey Rosen. You can also give us your thoughts about this movie or anything else by emailing us at movingrightalong@toughpigs.com. You can find me on Twitter at @MeRyanRowe. Anthony is on Letterboxd. What's your Letterboxd again?
It remains Zeppo Marxist.
Zeppo Marxist. There you go. And I am on Letterboxd at Movies Are Neat. And Craig, where can people find you on the internet or anywhere else?
I have a website called CraigShemin.com, and I'm on Twitter at Craig Shemin. And those will, I'm on some of the other socials, but not outside of my sphere of friends, as they say. But this was a really good rehearsal, guys. When do we start recording?
Yeah, you ready to start for real?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm warmed up now.
All right.
Perfect.
Now I can really talk a long time.
Absolutely. So everyone keep an eye out for the real episode coming soon. And don't forget to give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever. Please tell your friends, your relatives, your enemies, the guy next to you on the elevator about the show. And join us again next week for another episode of Moving Right Along. Bye.
Kermit!